各位傳媒朋友早晨啦，歡迎大家嚟到政府總部出席行政長官會見傳媒嘅環節。咁啊，首先有請行政長官，唔該。
大家早晨。今日早上，國務院新聞辦公室發布咗《一國兩制下香港維護國家安全的實踐白皮書》，意義重大，正合其時。我對此表示十分歡迎同埋全力支持。特區政府會全力支持同埋履行白皮書嘅內容同埋要求。作為特區首長同埋當家人，我會領導同統籌特區行政、立法、司法機關，貫徹履行維護國家安全嘅責任。白皮書指出，中央政府從醖釀提出一國兩制科學構想，到全面實施一國兩制方針，始終堅定維護國家主權、安全、發展利益，保持香港長期繁榮穩定。白皮書從5個方面系統展述咗香港維護國家安全方面嘅鬥爭從未停止，包括中央政府對香港有關嘅國家安全事務負有根本責任。香港特區切實履行維護國家安全嘅憲制責任，香港實現由 亂到治走向由治及興，並且展明中央對香港特區以高水平安全護航一國兩制事業高質量發展必須把握嘅實踐要求。首先，白皮書詳細指明咗香港維護國家安全嘅鬥爭從未停止。白皮書指出，回歸後20多年，香港維護國家安全嘅鬥爭長期聚焦《基本法》第23條本地立法。《基本法》第23條立法長期無法完成，俾咗敵對勢力有機可乘。修例風波最終演變成港版顏色革命，黑暴肆虐，嚴重挑戰一國兩制原則底線，嚴重損害香港憲制秩序同埋法治，嚴重危害國家主權、安全、發展利益，亦都越加突顯香港特區喺維護國家安全方面存在咗法律漏洞同埋機制短板。第二，白皮書指明中央政府對香港有關國家安全事務負有根本責任。白皮書指出，維護國家安全係中央事權，中央立法維護國家安全係國際慣例，中國各國皆然。喺香港難以自行完成有關立法，面對嚴峻暴力同埋破壞國家安全迫在眉睫嘅情況之下，中央行使憲制權力，制定實施香港國安法，採取完善香港選舉制度等一系列標本兼治嘅舉措，有效維護咗國家安全，有力維護咗香港特區憲制秩序，沉重打擊咗反中亂港嘅勢力，對香港迅速止暴制亂，實現由亂到治嘅歷史性轉折發揮咗決定性作用，喺一國兩制實踐進程中具有重要嘅里程碑意義。第三，白皮書指明香港特區切實履行維護國家安全嘅憲制責任。白皮書指出，香港國安法公布實施以嚟，香港特區行政長官同政府敢於擔當，善作善成，行政、立法、司法機關各司其職，積極防範、制止同埋懲治危害國家安全嘅行為同埋活動，進一步築牢香港維護國家安全嘅屏障。白皮書指出，香港特區歷史性完成《基本法》第23條立法，履行咗長期未完成嘅憲制責任。香港特區執法、檢控、司法部門無畏無懼，恪盡職守，依法打擊危害國家安全罪行。香港特區政府持續加強宣傳教育，不斷增強香港居民國家安全意識。第四，白皮書指明香港實現由亂到治走向由治及興。白皮書指出，經過中央政府同香港特區嘅共同努力，香港維護國家安全工作取得歷史性成就，發生歷史性變革，香港嘅政權安全得到有效維護，治理效能顯著提升，法治尊嚴得到有力捍衛，社會秩序恢復穩定，香港營商環境持續優化，為市場注入咗強大嘅穩定性、確定性同埋可預期性。香港市民依法享有嘅各項權利同埋自由有咗更好保障，福祉日益增進。第五，白皮書指明以高水平安全護航一國兩制事業高質量發展必須把握嘅實踐要求。白皮書指出，新時代新征程必須以總體國家安全觀為指導，牢牢把握一國兩制下維護國家安全嘅實踐要求，堅定不移建設高水平安全，護航一國兩制實踐行穩致遠，包括 堅持中央嘅根本責任同埋特區憲制責任相統一，堅持將特區管治權牢牢掌握喺愛國者手中，堅持尊重同埋保障人權，堅持喺法治軌道上維護安全，堅持統籌發展同安全，堅持喺開放中維護安全。一國兩制下，香港維護國家安全嘅實踐白皮書對香港特區至為重要，具有指導性同埋關鍵現實意義。我哋必須認真學習同埋領會當中嘅精神要義同埋指示。白皮書帶俾我3點重要領會。第一，香港維護國家安全嘅鬥爭從未停止，國家安全嘅風險依然存在，我哋必須時刻警惕。第二，維護國家安全係中央事權，我哋支持並感謝中央從國家層面制定香港國安法。香港特區要認真同埋切實履行維護國家安全嘅憲制責任。第三，我哋要以高水平安全護航一國兩制事業高質量發展，實踐白皮書嘅要求。白皮書提醒我哋必須對國安風險時刻警惕。白皮書嘅發布更係對出賣國家同埋香港特區嘅叛徒作出最嚴正嘅警告。背叛國家同埋香港特區嘅黎智英，昨日被法庭重判入獄20年，刑期對勾結外部勢力危害國家安全嘅歹毒圖謀發出咗嚴厲警告。黎智英罪行滔天，惡貫滿盈，被重判入獄20年，彰顯法治，伸張正義。黎智英長期利用《蘋果日報》荼毒市民，煽動仇恨，歪曲事實，蓄意製造社會對立，美化暴力，公然乞求外部勢力制裁中國、制裁香港特區，犧牲人民福祉，賣國禍港，損害國家同埋香港特區利益，罪證累累，罪有應得。法庭早前頒下嘅裁決，清楚指出黎智英係案中嘅主腦，控制同埋利用《蘋果日報》荼毒社會，勾結外國勢力，乞求對中國同埋香港特區實施制裁同埋採取敵對行動。黎智英嘅歹毒圖謀跨越香港國安法實施前後，目的係勾結外部勢力，損害中國同埋香港特區利益，損害市民嘅利益，無恥咁充當外部勢力嘅爪牙，危害國家安全。法庭依法對黎智英同埋各個被告作出重判，彰顯咗法治同埋公義。然而，香港嘅社會已經承受咗沉重嘅代價。喺黎智英同埋佢所操控嘅《蘋果日報》嘅荼毒之下，部分市民，尤其係青年人，被誤導而違反法律，變得激進暴戾。喺黑暴期間，大肆破壞公共設施，衝擊政府大樓、立法會同埋中央駐港機構，投擲汽油彈，大肆縱火，更加放火燒人，更加有年輕人偷運真槍，製造炸彈，策劃恐怖活動，幸得警方及早搗破，先至可以避免咗大量人命傷亡。呢啲被煽動嘅人，包括年輕人，好多都因為犯法而要坐監。截至去年底，有2400多人因為黑暴期間所犯嘅各種罪行，要承擔法律後果。可見黎智英團伙同埋《蘋果日報》嘅惡貫滿盈。香港特區政府已經就《基本法》第23條完成本地立法，制定咗《維護國家安全條例》。香港國安法同《維護國家安全條例》渾然一體，築起維護國家安全嘅法律屏障。特區 會堅定不移維護國家安全，保障香港市民嘅合法權益，全力防範、制止同埋懲治危害國家安全嘅行為同埋活動，履行天經地義嘅維護國家安全責任。多謝大家。
好，而家落嚟傳媒提問時間啦。咁有意提問嘅傳媒咧，舉手示意啦，嗌到你之後講出係機構名稱同埋提問不都要兩個問題嘅。第一位，不如左手邊最尾嗰行白色衫嘅女記者，唔該。
早晨，特首，星島日報㗎。首先咧，想問翻咧，政府應急住宿安排工作組啦，已經咧就住宏福苑長遠安置方案咧，收集咗90成居民嘅意見，預計能唔能夠喺農曆年之前公佈一個結果啦？目前較為傾向邊啲方案？政府又會唔會考慮用公帑買業權？點樣去平衡使用公帑嘅公平性咧？其次就想問翻長和旗下巴拿馬港口公司手上面嗰份合同咧，就被巴拿馬最高法院判令違憲，中央政府同特區政府都發表咗聲明表示不滿㗎啦。但係巴拿馬當局都仲係未有反應，特區政府會點睇呢？會唔會考慮約見更多嘅商界、本港嘅商界，呼籲佢哋謹慎投資呢？唔該。
政府十分重視大埔宏福苑居民嘅長遠住宿安排，持續為受影響嘅家庭提供適切嘅協助。長遠住宿安排所涉及嘅問題係複雜嘅，每戶都有個別嘅情況同埋需要，而社會上邊亦都意見紛紜。政府會小心處理，平衡各方面嘅意見。政府亦都要兼顧一啲現實嘅問題，例如公共資源嘅適當、公帑嘅投入、住屋資源嘅分配、相關嘅法律、業權等責任同埋問題，政府亦都要妥善咁做好過渡性安排。當然時間上邊係要盡快做，越早讓受影響嘅家庭可以作出決定係越好嘅。財政司副司長領導嘅應急住宿安排工作組一直從以下幾個方向去盡快制定具體方案。第一，既考慮受影響家庭嘅意願，亦都要兼顧善用資源，要情理法兼備。第二，提供多元嘅選項，包括居屋、綠置居以及房協單位，讓居民有得揀。第三，因應居民嘅意願，提供大埔園區或者跨區嘅居住安排。工作組透過一戶一社工嘅問卷，收集咗受影響業主嘅初步意願。目前業主嘅回覆已經係大致收齊。工作組正經係密鑼緊鼓，歸納同埋分析業主就不同選項嘅意願。初步觀察，有絕大部分業主期望政府從速處理長遠住宿安排，有相當高嘅比例業主表示會考慮接受政府向佢哋收購業權，亦都有業主表示要考慮實質嘅收購價。而家工作組歸納咗以下要克服嘅問題同埋挑戰。第一，就不同家庭嘅需求分歧，點樣可以一致性處理？第二，對宏福苑嘅公共保險所涉及嘅責任、賠償不確定性同埋相關嘅法律問題。第三，所涉嘅業權責任同埋法律爭拗，會否帶嚟長時間延誤解決嘅風險等等。我已經指示工作組必須盡快研究各方面嘅可行方案，而同埋佢哋所涉及嘅法律問題，去徵詢律政司嘅意見，盡早落實安排。我明白呢段時期對每一位宏福苑嘅居民嚟講都係不容易，政府會馬不停蹄，盡早敲讓受影響嘅居民可以作出最適合嘅選擇，協助佢哋早日重建家園，早日重回安定嘅生活。就巴拿馬最高法院所指，巴拿馬港口公司同巴拿馬政府簽署續約經營兩個巴拿馬港口違憲，特區政府係表示強烈不滿嘅。 特區政府嘅態度係清晰嘅，反對任何外國政府喺國際經貿關係中使用脅迫、施壓或者其他不合理嘅政治手段。商務及經濟發展局已經喺上星期召見咗巴拿馬駐港總領事，表達對裁決嘅強烈不滿，認為巴拿馬對合法經貿關係嘅出爾反爾，破壞咗巴拿馬嘅信用，將對當地嘅營商環境同埋經濟發展造成深遠嘅損害，並嚴重破壞國際貿易規則。特區政府敦促巴拿馬政府尊重合約精神，為當地依法營運嘅企業提供公平、公正嘅營商環境，確保企業嘅合法權益不受干預。而香港企業喺巴拿馬經營同埋投資，應獲得公平合理嘅待遇同埋保障。外交部亦都已經清晰表明，中方將採取一切必要措施，堅決維護中方企業正當合法權益。特區政府會全面支持同埋配合國家所採取嘅措施。我相信今次嘅事件已經損害投資者對巴拿馬當地嘅營商環境信心，會審視現在同埋未來喺當地嘅投資，希望巴拿馬當局認真保障合法精神，認真保障企業嘅合法利益。多謝。
好，下條提問，右手邊第二行啡色衫男記者，唔該。
Good morning, Mr. Chief Executive. Two questions from Full TV News. So the first question is, after Jimmy Lai's sentencing, you described him as having committed numerous heinous crimes, and his evil deeds were beyond measure for the 20-year imprisonment. Do you think the sentence reflects his culpability? Will the authorities appeal the sentence to the judiciary? What are your views on the perspectives of European and American countries regarding the case? And the second question is, the government has issued a questionnaire to Wangfu Court residents on the rehousing scheme for more than a month. Will you commit to having a more optimized scheme before Lunar New Year so that residents can celebrate the New Year with peace of mind? And additionally, the government's proposed scheme may involve the use of public funds. Will you instruct the Financial Secretary to reserve funding for Wangfu Court rehousing in the budget to be announced at the end of this month? Thank you.
Jimmy Lai, who has betrayed the country and Hong Kong, has been sentenced to 20 years imprisonment, a heavy punishment that sends a solemn warning against malicious plots of collusion with external elements and endangering national security. Lai has committed numerous heinous crimes, and his evil deeds were beyond measure. The heavy sentence of 20 years imposed on him manifests that the rule of law is upheld and justice is done. Lai had long used Apple Daily to poison the minds of the people of Hong Kong by inciting hatred, distorting facts, deliberately stirring up social antagonism, and glorifying violence. He has openly begged for external forces to impose sanctions against China and the Hong Kong SAR, sacrificing the well-being of the people of China and Hong Kong. He caused damage to the interests of the country and the Hong Kong SAR. His conviction is supported by overwhelming evidence, and he deserves the punishment after all the harm that he has done. The court pointed out clearly in its verdict handed down earlier that Lai was the mastermind of the case. He had manipulated and exploited Apple Daily to poison society and colluded with external forces to back for sanctions and hostile activities against China and Hong Kong SAR. Lai's malicious plot spanned across both the periods before and after the promulgation of the Hong Kong National Security Law. His intent was to collude with external forces to harm the interests of China and Hong Kong SAR, as well as those of the people. He has shamelessly acted as a pawn of external forces to endanger national security. The court has already handed down heavy sentences for Lai and the other defendants in accordance with the law, manifesting that the rule of law is upheld and justice is done. That said, Hong Kong as a whole has already paid a heavy price. Poisoned by light and apple daily under his control, some of our citizens, especially young people, have been misled to break the law and become radical and violent. During the period of black violence, they committed acts of vandalism on public facilities. Not only did they storm the buildings of the Hong Kong SAR government, the Legislative Council, and offices of the central government in Hong Kong, they also threw petrol bombs, committed arson, and even set people on fire. Furthermore, some young people smuggled real guns, made bombs, and made plans for terrorist activities. It was fortunate that the police had promptly cracked down on these plots and prevented mass casualties. However, many young people who have been incited to commit crimes eventually ended up in prison. As of the end of last year, more than 2,400 individuals have to face legal consequences for unlawful acts during the period of black violence. It is plain to see that the evil deeds committed by Lai and his syndicate were beyond measure. Hong Kong SAR government has completed the local legislation on Article 23 of the Basic Law and enacted the Safeguarding National Security Ordinance. The Hong Kong National Security Law and the Safeguarding National Security Ordinance are complementary to each other to establish the legal protection for safeguarding national security. They also protect the legitimate rights and freedoms of the people of Hong Kong, and the Hong Kong SAR will do all its best to prevent, suppress, and punish acts and activities that endanger national security and fulfilling its rights and fulfilling this responsibility of the most righteousness. Since we took action against a lot of syndicates who were involved in crimes related to endangering national security, Western countries and also politicians and organizations have been bad-mouthing Hong Kong's righteous action to protect national security. They are doing this, of course, for their political agenda. A lot try to cause trouble in Hong Kong so as to cause trouble to our country, China. Thanks to the Hong Kong National Security Law and Safeguarding Hong Kong Security Ordinance, we now have the tools to take action against all these illegal activities and acts. We will resolutely fulfill our duty to safeguard national security despite all the political attempts that try to smear our righteous action of safeguarding national security. They all do this for obvious reasons. Some of the people we are taking action against are their pawns, are their representatives, are under their influence to endanger Hong Kong's and our country's national security. It will be against their interests that we successfully neutralize their attempts. So these attacks, I expect, will continue because this is something they will not stop in order to ensure that their own national security interests override others. Certainly, I will not allow that to happen. Regarding sentence, the DOJ and the police will study in detail the judgment and the reasons and consider it fully. Regarding went for court, okay. I attach great interest and importance to the long-term accommodation arrangements for residents of Wangfu Court, and the government has been continuing to provide suitable assistance to the affected families. Well, the issues that the government has to resolve are really complicated because each household has its own circumstances and needs, and there are also very diverse opinions in society. The government must carefully consider and deal with the various views and take into account some very practical issues, such as the appropriate use of public resources, the allocation of public funds, the distribution of housing resources, and the relevant legal ownership-related responsibilities and challenges. The government has also need to properly manage the transitional arrangements of accommodation. Timely action is crucial, so the sooner we can make available the options for residents to choose, the better. The task force on emergency accommodation arrangement led by Deputy Financial Secretary has been working incessantly to develop a concrete plan in the following directions. First, to consider the wishes of the affected families while ensuring the efficient use of resources and balancing empathy, reason, and law. Second, to provide multiple options to affected families, including home ownership scheme and green form subsidized home ownership scheme flats, as well as Hong Kong Housing Society units. And also, third, to offer accommodation arrangements either within Tai Po or across different districts. Through the One Social Worker, One Household service, the task force collected preliminary preferences from affected flat owners. Currently, responses from them have largely been received. The task force is working intensively to compile and analyze flat owners' preferences regarding different options. Initial observations indicate that the vast majority of owners hope the government will expedite the handling of long-term rehousing work. A significant proportion of flat owners have expressed willingness to consider the government's acquisition of their ownership rights. Some flat owners have indicated that they need to look at the actual acquisition price. The task force is currently working hard to overcome some of the following issues which poses difficulties and challenges. First, how to handle the differing needs of various families in a consistent manner. Second, issues regarding liability, compensation uncertainty, and relevant legal matters concerning the public insurance of Wangfu Court. Third, whether ownership-related responsibility and legal disputes will pose risks of prolonged delays in resolution. I have instructed the task force to promptly study the feasibility of various options and the legal issues, seek advice from the Department of Justice, and propose arrangements as soon as possible. I understand this is no easy time for families of wrongful caught. The government will work tirelessly to finalize the plan as soon as possible, enable affected families to make the most suitable choices, and assist them in rebuilding their homes and resuming their normal lives as quickly as possible. Regarding our arrangements, of course, we may have to use some public funding. The government will prudently make assessments and make appropriate arrangements to ensure that public funds are used effectively, striking a balance between the needs of the residents and the reasonable use of public resources. Thank you.
好，最後一條提問，右手邊第二行側邊個黑色嘅衫嘅男記者，唔該。
您好，新华社记者提问。“十五五”规划纲要预计将在即将召开的全国两会上正式发布。特区政府此前也多次强调会主动对接“十五五”规划。请问您，香港将如何主动跟进“十五五”规划？有无具体的时间表？以及春节假期是内地居民出境旅游的高峰期，而香港是热门的旅行目的地。请问您，特区政府为迎接即将到来的内地春节旅客安排了什么活动？做出了哪些安排？在推动文体旅协同发展和盛事经济的背景下，今年香港将推出哪些重点盛事，以吸引更多旅客访港？谢谢。
今年是国家“十五五”规划的开局纪年，我们会全面主动、积极对接国家“十五五”规划，为香港开创新局，提升竞争力，进一步发展经济，改善民生，把握重大机遇。我会从3个范畴跟大家说一说我的看法。第一，为何要对接？国家的5年规划作为治广理政的显著制度优势，已被国际社会广泛认同。国家正通过“十五五”规划继续推动发展新居生产力，推动高质量发展，既优化提升传统产业，同时培育壮大新型产业和未来产业，推动科技创新和产业创新深度融合。香港当下面对的经济转型期，劳动力技能需求变化、国际竞争加剧、地缘风险上升等挑战，融入国家发展大局可带来新空间、新动能。香港如能与国家中长期规划同频共振，发挥香港背靠祖国、联通世界的独特优势和重要作用，就能在各领域开拓新的发展机遇，进一步发展经济，改善民生。第二，要对接什么？我们会从5个重点方面对接。第一，巩固提升香港国际金融中心，与国家建设金融强国战略对接。第二，巩固提升香港国际航运中心，对接国家建设交通强国战略，深化与粤港澳大湾区港口联动合作。第三，巩固提升香港国际贸易中心，对接国家建设强大国内市场和贸易强国战略，发挥好引进来走出去的角色。第四，建设香港国际创新科技中心，与国家加快高水平科技激励自强战略 对接。第五，香港打造国际高端人才集聚高地，对接国家教育强国、科技强国、人才强国的战略部署。当然，这些都是我点出来的例子而已，还有其他领域。第三，是香港如何对接。香港特区将制定5年发展规划，构建系统性的政策框架，对重点发展领域做出更精准、细致的战略部署。我将亲自领导跨部门全政府的专责小组进行统筹协调，各政策组正成立准备小组，待3月15规划纲要正式公布后，准备小组会转为对接15规划工作组，进行政策对接的编制工作，并全速推进。我将推进相关体制机制建设，以下是其中5个例子。第一，坚持和完善行政主导，推动纪律改革，提升行政效能，更好结合有为政府与高效市场，推动特区实现良政善治。第二，保持国际性的营商环境，确保外资企业和国际机构能在香港享有透明、公正的制度环境。第三，深化内地和香港经贸合作机制，进一步深化内地与香港关于建立更紧密经贸关系的安排 CEPA， 善用经贸合作机制。第四，加快发展北部都会区。北部都会区不仅拓展香港经济发展空间，更成为融入粤港澳大湾区、服务国家双循环新格局的关键拳头堡，为构建国际创新科技中心提供坚实支撑。第五，深化粤港澳大湾区协同发展。特区政府将深化大湾区区域合作，强化协同效应，推动区域融合与高效互联互通。这个是有关15的部署。有关你问题，新春的活动，下星期二，2月17号，就是马年的大年初一。我首先在这里预祝大家，福马临门啊，马到功成。今年内地的春节黄金周长达9天，由年28到年初7，将会带来内地旅客访港的高峰期。我们将延续旅游业增长势头，举办多姿多彩的新春节庆活动。首先，明天2月11日是年24，全港的14个农历新年年宵市场会开幕，直到年初一的清晨。后天起，2月12日年25，香港彩灯展会在尖沙咀露天广场举行超过1个月。年初一晚上，尖沙咀有新春国际汇宴，主题是开年开运开心，有近60支来自10多个国家和地区的队伍来香港献祭。之后在年初2至正月15，花车将在本港多个地点展出，包括启德体育园，多支参与汇演的表演队伍亦会在不同地点演出。年初2晚上有 农历新年烟花汇演，23分钟的烟花将闪耀维多利亚港。年初三，沙田马场举行马年赛马日，应景应节，气氛非常热闹。年初五，香港大球场举行贺岁杯足球赛，大家都可以一睹自己心目中的一些球星。期间还有大步临春的香港水宴节、黄大仙祠和车公庙等等活动，预计都会非常热闹。为确保旅客有好的体验，由政务司司长领导的节庆安排跨部门工作小组上星期已经开会，协调各政府部门机构和业界紧密合作，在口岸服务、公共交通、郊外热门的景点、旅行团和保障旅行安排等方面全面做好准备和应对工作。为提供更全面的资讯，香港旅游发展局已推出一站式的新春节庆专业。保安局亦会通过一站式通关资讯平台口岸通，为旅客提供更全面的资讯，方便提早计划行程。未来2个月，香港会继续马不停蹄举行连串国际级的旗舰盛事，例如在正月17到20，及3月5号到8号，世界级的高尔夫赛事 Live Golf 2026香港站会在粉岭香港高尔夫球会举行。3月会是香港的艺术月，其他活动包括香港艺术节、巴塞尔艺术展、香港展会、Art Central 等，还有潮流文化盛事 ComplexCon 都会陆续登场。我们会将春节的欢乐气氛一直延续到未来几个月，组织各类的活动，为香港带來更歡樂的氣氛和經濟活動。謝謝大家。
好，今日行政長官見傳媒時間去到呢度，唔該曬咁多傳媒朋友，唔該晒。